spent time at a board of nursing where I learned to investigate nurses. I went to national training. I only stayed there for a short period of time. I came up back on out, and here I am, educating you guys. I started doing some legal nursing. So the first crossover, as I talk about, in my, my intro to legal nursing course is into um, to be an investigator. But then my second crossover is as a civil nurse, so civil expert nurse. So what does that mean? So for medical malpractice, I was on LinkedIn, and a legal nurse consultant reached out to me, saw my experience, and said, "Hey, will you look at a case?" I had never done any case reviews outside of at the board of nursing, but not on the civil side. And I said, I'll full transparency, I've never done this. And she's like, that's okay. You have the knowledge, the education, training, and knowledge. We just need you to look at the case and tell us if there's any deviations from the standard of care. So I went on to do that. And during this period, I'm researching, looking at administrative law, what it means to hold a professional license, because I felt like when I was at the board that we weren't extended the same courtesies as I saw in the civil side. On the medical malpractice side, I was like, wait, what? There's like discovery. There's all these things that we don't even know about. Further reason why I try to educate nurses. So just spurred me to start researching administrative law, what the differences were, what that meant. I went to my representatives. I made some change in my own state, still while still practicing at the bedside. So I left the bedside about 2 years ago during the pandemic. No mystery. Anyone who's a nurse knows. Uh, I had been practicing for roughly about 22 years then. And now I help nurses and their legal teams when they're under investigation. I do lots and lots of education, provide nurses with resources. And that's why I'm here today. So for my subscribers, we're going to go over some of the questions that I get asked a lot in my everyday things that I do. It's a lot around answering questions by nurses, by lawyers, helping lawyers and their legal teams when a nurse is under investigation, and then helping to just digest some of that stuff. Because we really don't learn enough of that stuff in school. We kind of skim over that. We learn some basic stuff about malpractice, the standards of care, but we're not criminals. So we don't really dwell there. We learn what we need to know for the test, and then we move on from that. What was the definition of that again? Memorize it, you dump it, because we're going to take care of people. We innately love and care people and not going to cause them harm. So I think it's really, really important that nurses understand the professional license, what it means to hold a professional license, the rules and regulations that dictate our professional license. I do believe that a lot of that should start in school. And with a little bit more foundation, Texas is the only state that requires jurisprudence for anyone who holds a professional license. If you guys don't know what that is, jurisprudence is a class that anyone could take, not the same course. It just done some research that the folks that hold a professional license here take, but there are other organizations that offer something similar to that. So what is that? It's basically the intersection of your license and the law. I think it could be written in more in 10th grade language like the NCLEX is, but it's still a great place to start as far as it pertains to your license. So first and foremost, one of the questions that I get asked the most, hands down, and even most recently this year, I had the opportunity to speak to one of the nurse instructors, professors for Texas Tech, who had me, she asked me some questions and she recorded it for her students about professional liability insurance. Should you or should you not have professional liability insurance? Absolutely, yes, you should. I could talk about this till, you know, the roosters come up to crow again. I mean, to roost again. It's your organization, just by the nature of it being an organization. Imagine if you owned a business, you're going to innately protect yourself. So when you work for an organization, you are covered under their professional liability insurance, right? That's called respondent superior. But now it came down to possibly your gross negligence, and gross negligence is different than negligence, and they are going to need to protect themselves. Do you think maybe that's the conflict of interest? It is. So now let's just even extend that. Now you're reported to a board of nursing. Is the lawyer from that organization going to represent you in front of the board of nursing? More likely than not, they are not. And there's going to be several reasons why. That's not the type of law they practice. Just like a nurse is not a nurse is not a nurse. It's the same with lawyers. The lawyer that's representing the hospital or the organization is a defense attorney who practices a form of like civil litigation. A board of nursing case, a board of medicine case, radiology, PT, whomever it is, that's under administrative law. That's a profession, an attorney who represents people who hold a professional license. That's a big deal. You need to make sure that you're getting the right person for the job, essentially. So having your own professional liability insurance affords you that ability. It's no different than if you have medical insurance or car insurance and you get into an accident, they're going to have a list of providers or places where you can take your vehicle. It's the mechanics. It's the same thing with the professional liability insurance. They'll have a list of administrative attorneys that you can reach out to, and you should interview them. They should, talk to them for 15, 20 minutes, get a good feel, have a good understanding of your case and what's happening and where you are. There is civil litigation. I've been deposed. These are all the people in the case. Have the petition so that you can have an educated conversation with the attorney who's going to possibly represent you, and you can answer some basic questions, and you have some documents in front of you that you can reference or even share with them quickly, that they can quickly lay eyes on and give you, some feedback prior to you deciding whether to hire them or not. And don't just start with the first person. Interview them. Ideally, best case scenario, a nurse. Because you know what a nurse is going to know? The nuances that are happening around possibly the conduct. Now, if it's a DUI, if it's something that happened criminally or it's criminal conduct, you may need both. And so I don't necessarily know that it necessarily needs to be a nurse because it's not practice related. Practice related would be there's a medication error, failure to assess, failure to respond, nuances that would be specific to nursing. Now, even if they've not practiced for a while, and they don't do your specialty, that's okay. They can call an expert. They possibly even just know an expert, but they're going to understand that there's different nuances in what you do. So should you have professional liability insurance? Absolutely. You can start with your own car or home insurance. I have no affiliation with any organization yet. But call them, ask them questions like, do you underwrite, or if I'm being investigated by a board or I'm involved in civil litigation, it would never pay for anything criminally to the best of my knowledge. Ask that. I don't know that to ever be true, but please, I love learning new stuff. Please send that on over to me. Do you as a carrier underwrite And would you pay for an expert nurse who is, whatever your credentialing is, LPN, RN, NP, CRNA, whatever it is that you do, or what